All right, this is kind of a crazy story. So my mom had a younger brother, my Uncle Al. Now, this is a picture of him from 1952. He played bass professionally and met my Aunt Pat while he was out touring around the United States. And then he stopped playing professionally in 1953 when he got married and had 3 kids, Karen, Frank, and Janine. Tragically, my Uncle Al passed away in 1969 at 38 of pancreatic cancer, leaving 3 kids and a wife behind. It's one of my first memories, that was really impactful, because somebody that's 38 years old passing away and leaving his family there, and it devastated my whole family. The picture that I showed earlier is one of the few remaining pictures of him. And the bass that he's playing in the picture went missing sometime in the mid-70s. So about 15 years ago, my cousin Janine sent some pictures around to myself and to my brother John of a bass that was in the House of Guitars. House of Guitars is the coolest music store that I think there is in the world. They have an instrument side and they have an insane record side, as you can see from here, with millions of records. So this picture that Janine sent was of a bass that was from the early 50s, and she said in the email, "This might be my dad's bass." Now, when I saw the picture, I thought, I remember seeing that bass when I went to the House of Guitars in the 1970s. It was always in this case above the door. And to me, those were always the unobtainable instruments that were above the door, that were vintage instruments that nobody would buy, or maybe the store wanted to keep them. I never knew what they were for. So a couple months ago, when I was getting inducted in the Rochester Music Hall of Fame, my friend Keith Williams, who has a channel 5 Watt World, and he and his fiancee Roman came, and we had lunch together, and he said, "What are you going to do the rest of the day?" I said, "I'm going to go over to the House of Guitars with my brother John." And I had told Keith the story of this bass, I don't know, a few years ago or so. And Keith has made a history of the Fender Precision bass. Anyhow, I said, I'm going to go take a look and see if that bass is still there that my cousin Janine thought might have been her dad's. So I go with John to the House of Guitars, and we're in there. We're talking to some sales guy. And I asked, I said, "Do you have an early 50s bass that used to be over there?" He goes, "Yeah, we had one like that, but we sold it a couple years ago." Okay, fine. So I didn't think anything of this until about 2 weeks ago, when Keith texted me a clip from Reverb with Joe Bonamassa. And he said, "Go to 19 minutes and 27 seconds. And that's all it said. And here's what I saw.
I've been going to the House of Guitars since I've been 6 years old, so 41 years. And this bass has been hanging up there in their glass case since I've been going there, along with the Esquire, which they were nice enough to sell me. And proving that Leo got it right the first time, it's like this was, Gen 1, I think it's a 52. So they made them a year before, but if this is the only electric bass ever invented, you're good. You know what I mean? Good enough for Dusty Hill, good enough for me.
So think about this. What are the chances that Keith, who's also from Rochester and has a YouTube channel where he's done a history on the Fender P-Bass and has been friends with me for 40 years, watches this Joe Bonamassa video after he just saw me? I told him I was going to House Guitars to ask about this bass, comes across it 19 minutes and 27 seconds into this Joe Bonamassa video, who I also know, who's also from upstate New York. And Joe tells the same story of seeing it up there that I told Keith. Well, let me have Keith tell it to you from his perspective.
As soon as I saw Reverb's new review of Joe Bonamassa's gear, I clicked play. In the first few minutes, Joe says that it's the stories that draw him to collecting vintage gear, and I nodded to myself, having heard him say that many times before. I'm watching along, and at 19 minutes and 18 seconds, Joe says, "I've been going to the House of Guitars since I was 6 years old, and this bass has been hanging up there in the glass case since I've been going there." As soon as Joe said that, I remembered Rick telling me the story of his uncle's Fender Precision that had disappeared from the family home in the 1970s. I stopped the video, and I texted Rick.
So I send the video to my brother John, and he calls me and says, "That's Uncle Al's bass." I also send it to Janine, and she's like, "That's my dad's bass." So I called Joe, we start talking, catching up, and I said, "Joe, listen, the reason I'm calling you is because I know you love the stories of instruments. Well, I have a story for you. I was watching a video of you talking about a bass that you bought at House Guitars. It was in the plexiglass case over there, and I texted him this picture. Joe's thinking to himself, why does Rick have this picture here? And I said, Well, the reason I have the picture is because this is a picture of my uncle playing a bass that's from that era, from 1952. So then I said the bass actually went missing from my cousin Janine's house. And this is how far she lived away from house guitars. And as soon as Joe saw that map that she lived 2 blocks away, he said, I've got your uncle's bass. So Joe says, I don't know how to feel about this. Does your cousin want to buy the bass? I mean, Joe paid for the bass. And I said, no, Janine doesn't play bass. She is just happy that you have it because you know how much that bass means. So then Joe says, well, do you want to buy it? And I'm like, well, I don't really collect vintage instruments, so I don't need a 52 Fender P bass. And he goes, well, let me know if you change your mind. And I was like, okay. So anyways, the next day, my brother John calls me in the morning. He's like, so did you talk to Joe last night? I said, yeah, I talked to him. And what did he say? He said, I've got your uncle's bass. Well, are you going to buy it from him? And I said, no, I'm not going to buy it. Why would I buy it from him? He goes, you need to buy it from him. That's been in our family. It should be back in our family. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. So the next morning, I texted Joe and I said, hey, Joe, I was thinking about it. I'd like to buy the bass from you. It would mean a lot to me and my family to have it back. How much would you like for it? And Joe said, you can just give me what I paid for it. It'd be really cool to see it go home. Well, the bass just arrived. Wow. Okay, now I'm going to call my cousin Janine and reunite her virtually with it. Janine, you were right all along. It was there.
And now you have it. Wow, look at it.
Yeah.
It's been behind that plexiglass for how many, all those decades?
Your persistence paid off with all these just strange coincidences.
Crazy.
Amazing.
Just crazy.
Well, I can't wait for you to come over and hold it and
I
hang
can't
out.
wait to see it. And you.
I'm glad we have it back.
Me too. I'm glad it's home.
All right, now let's try it out. Leave a comment, hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching.